Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna do a little bit of what the channel name kind of represents. We're gonna do a little bit of something to help with your self-reliance and teach you what seems to be simple task cutting wood. Sometimes it's not as simple as you might think. You know, there's a lot of different ways to do it, a lot of different methods, lots of different tools. And in this episode, we're gonna cover a little bit of that and hopefully help someone out there in learning how to do this. You know, not everybody just knows how to do things, and everybody needs to start from somewhere. So I hope someone finds this video useful and they can get some information out of it. So stay tuned, and we'll get to cutting some wood and teaching you how some of these things work. All right, first thing I wanted to do is go over kind of the measuring and marking of the wood. You know, something as simple as a tape measure, which I'm pretty sure 99.9% of you know what one of these is. For those that don't, it's for measuring. This one here is in inches and feet. You can definitely get them in millimeters, centimeters, meters. But since we're here in the US, we'll be doing everything in inches. One thing I wanted to cover on the tape measure is on the end here, you got this little guy, and any tape measure you ever pick up, it moves. And what this is meant for is for the thickness of this little guy here. So whether you're measuring something with this against, and you're measuring the inside of something, and you can't hook it here, you want to measure it from there. When you hook it here, it pulls out that slider on those rivets, and it makes up for the actual thickness of that little piece there. So for those that didn't know, hopefully I taught you something. Other things we have here, we have several different kinds of squares, as I don't hold them in frame. Several different kinds of squares. I think I even have that one yet too. This one here is your basic carpenter square. It has measurements on it, along with just a perfect 90 degrees on the inside and outside. This one here's pretty much the same thing. It's old, and you can barely see the measurements on there. I don't even know if the camera will pick that up, but it does have measurements there on it. Again, just a 90 degree square. This one here, you can slide it so you could actually use it for a precise measurement from the end of it to the center. That gives you 90 degrees. It also has this guy here, which is a 45 degree angle. That way you can use it for, I'm going to use the example of a picture frame. You know, you want to measure out 45 degree angles so your picture frame has a nice point on it, rather than just two pieces of wood butted together like that. You can get, you know, that nice, you know, you know what I mean. And so that's that guy. And then the last one we have here is a framing square. This one is nice. Let me get a pencil out of here and I'll show you a couple things that you can do with it. First off, 90 degrees, and it also, if you see along here, it gives you additional degrees that you could come off from this point here. Another nifty thing it does, so let's say I wanted to take this piece of wood and I wanted to cut it in this direction, and I wanted a 1-inch strip, or I wanted to mark it along the 1-inch edge just to drive nails or screws along it. where it has the one here, there's also a corresponding little groove there, and you just leave the the edge against there, and then you can just draw yourself a nice line that is 1 inch exactly from the edge. Something else you can do this with, and not all saws will do it, but if you look at your saw, this one here, this guy here will give you a 90-degree edge and a 45-degree edge. So if you're in the field and you need to do a quick 90, you can put the saw against your wood like that and do your marking. You can also put it like this so that it's resting on this edge, and you can give yourself a nice 45. So that's several different ways you can mark your wood, that you can make sure you get accurate cuts and accurate markings on your piece of wood so that you know where to cut. Alright, now that we've gotten measuring and marking out of the way, I wanted to talk about the different kind of saws that we have here. Any one of these can be used for wood. Some of them have multi-purpose, like the jigsaw, the skill saw, or reciprocating saw. Even circular saw could be used for many other things other than just wood. The most common, and what you'll see and can buy just about anywhere, is just your typical hand saw. This one here, if you look at the teeth on it, they're straight up and down. This allows you to make a cut on both the forward and the back stroke. It's also a bit more aggressive, allows it to, it'll cut across the grain much quicker, and a little bit messier than a saw that's going to have the angled teeth on them, and that'll only cut on the forward stroke. The back stroke is just cleaning out the cut, but it'll also make a much cleaner cut. It'll look much nicer. I have this one around just for cutting 2x4s, or just cutting something quickly that I don't want to have to break out a power tool for. The second manual tool we have here is this little miter box saw. You can see on this blade it does have little angled teeth, so it's only cutting on the forward stroke. This too has, you could use the handle for marking a 90 or a 45-degree angle. It came with this little miter guide here, which gives you 90-degree cuts, 45-degree cuts, and I believe cutting on the side here, trying to think, I believe that's also going to be, it's either going to be a 45 or a 22.5-degree cut. I'd have to look at that. I'm not 100% sure. But it would allow you to make a cut in the piece of wood where it would go this way rather than this way. So that's a little miter box. Mine, I just attached an old piece of 2x4 to the bottom of it so I can clamp it down in my vise. Admittedly, I don't use this too often because I have an electric compound miter saw that I typically use for most of my cutting, but I do have one of these sitting around just in case I'm somewhere where I can't use the electric one. Back here we have a jigsaw. This is a cordless version, but there's millions of corded and cordless versions out there. Uses regular old jigsaw bits, and these saws allow you to make rounded cuts along with straight cuts. You can even make angle cuts with it. This one you could make angle cuts with. And they don't all have a swivel. For lack of a better term, I'm going to call it a platen, but or a base. They don't all have swiveling bases, but this one does. And this one's also multi-speed. Depending on what you're cutting, you can set that to whatever you want. So that's the jigsaw. The one right below it there, that's the old reciprocating saw, skill saw, whatever you would like to call it. The reason it's called reciprocating saw, and before I do this, no battery in it, is because this blade just moves in and out like this. It reciprocates back and forth. This particular saw, and again, not all of them have it, but it has an orbital function on it as well, where when it's off, the blade just goes in and out with it on, which typically when I'm cutting wood I have it on. You wouldn't have to, but that's what I do. The blade, instead of just going in and out, it kind of does one of these. It's probably the other way to no, that would be correct, that way. So when it's pulling towards and cutting when it pulls in, and then as it goes out, it's cleaning out the cut. So that's your reciprocating saw. And this here is your circular saw. This one here uses a 7 1/4 inch blade. Right now on it, it just has a framing blade or a ripping blade, whatever you want to call it. Really rough cut, but will chew through just about anything. These here, again, the base will swivel to whatever angle you would need, you know, your cut to be at. If you want it to be, let's see if I can, if you want it to be, you know, cut in an angle through here like this, you can set the saw to do that. Plus they also can be set up for depth. That's your circular saw. So let's do a little bit of cutting. What do you say? Alright, so cutting. What we're going to do, we're going to use this scrap piece of 2x4, and we're just going to make a couple cuts on it. I'm not sure how in depth I'll get with the power tools, just because that could be a completely different video on its own. Just because there's a lot of safety involved. There's just a lot of different things they can do. If you all want a video hitting up power tools and the safety and just how to use them properly, I can try and make one of those videos for you all too. I'm going to preface this too. I'm doing these videos just because I enjoy doing them. I'm not necessarily an expert. You know, most of this I've taught myself and just learned over the years. That doesn't necessarily make it right. It's just the way that I do it, and I thought I'd just share that with some of y'all. So anyway, here we go. So we're just going to use our framing square because it's the easiest one I've got here, and we're just going to mark our piece of wood, and I'm not even sure we'll cut the whole way through. I just, you know, want to go through the process because I'm sure there's someone out there that would like to see it be done. So here we go. So we're just going to stay close to the end, preserve some of the wood for some of the other tools we're going to use, and make ourselves a nice 90-degree line. And of course it got to the end and my pencil got against the toe there of the didn't give me a straight line, but there we go. So now that we have that, we'll get our hand saw, and you have to make sure you account for the thickness of your blade. So what we're going to do when you do the cut, whatever side you want to keep, which in this case we're keeping this side, you want to keep the saw blade, instead of being right on the line, just to the right edge of that line. That way you can keep a precise measurement on there, and then you know, you're not off by, you know, something like this. It's probably, you know, a 32nd of an inch. I don't know if you care to, well, of course now it's not on there anymore, but yeah, 32nd of an inch. Not sure if anybody cares about that, knowing how wide that is or not, but there it is. So if you're trying to be accurate, you can just make sure you stay off the line, just to the right of it. And as you start, you know, I don't start with the saw parallel to the piece of wood. I start with it at an angle, so that you know, you're only cutting a small portion of the wood, and then just nice slow strokes, and then as you go, you can either then bring the saw, I said parallel earlier, I guess it would be parallel or perpendicular, I guess it's the way you look at it, and make your back stroke have no pressure on it. And what that'll do, it'll clean up the sawdust that's in the cut, and when you make your forward stroke, that's when you put pressure into it. You can go a little faster. You may bind up, which is okay. Even the pros, when they're cutting a piece of wood, the saw might just bind and want to kick one way or the other. These are very springy. They take a lot to bend, and so you don't really have to worry too much about it. And there you have it, a cut piece of wood. Now, when I said earlier that these are kind of rough, you can see, we got lots of splinters around. Now at the bottom, I should have slowed down and, cleanly made that bottom cut. But, for the sake of the video, I'm trying to speed things up. But there's your cut. So, second one we're going to do, we'll do the circular saw. Again, I'm not going to go into deep depth on this just because there's so many different kinds of circular saws. There's so many different ways to use them. I'm just going to do a quick tutorial on trying to get a straight cut in your piece of wood. So let's set that aside. Let's do another 90-degree mark on our piece of wood. So with a circular saw, up here you have this notch here, and this one is labeled, probably can't see that, it's labeled 45 degrees and 0 degrees. 45 degrees being if you have your base of your saw let's see, kicked like this, so you can then get a 45 degree cut out of it. We're not going to do that. We're going to go 0 degree. So we're going to be using this slot over here, and that's where we're going to line up the marking on our wood with the saw. Now again, you can see the width of that opening there is about the width of your blade. So what you want to do, depending again which side you want to keep, you want to make sure the side of that opening is lined up properly on the piece of wood, again, so you can get an accurate cut and make sure you're not either overcutting or undercutting it. So as the safety on the side of a saw, you can see this guy here. Now when in any normal situation when you're cutting, as you cut, the bottom here is going to come against your piece of wood, and it's going to slowly open as you cut. And that's just pure and simple safety. It keeps you from, when you're done cutting, if you set your saw down and the motor's still spinning down, it'll keep it from, getting into your work surface. It keeps you from getting it into, once you're through the wood, even something as simple as getting it into your leg or something like that. It's there purely and solely for safety. Another thing you can see while we have it sideways is this guy here. Again, I'm not sure all saws have this, but that's just where your sawdust is going to come from. Just keeps it kind of off to the side and out of the way so that you can have a little bit more clean work surface, and it also keeps some of the dust away from the line on the wood so that you can see what you're doing. So let's just do a quick cut with this. It's set at its maximum depth right now, so I don't have to worry about depth on the 2x4, and also we're going to cut on this end, that way we're not getting into the vise at all. So let's do a quick cut with the circular saw. Here we go. Alright, there's our circular saw cut. And you can see with this saw, try to do this without getting my hand near anything, when it turns off, this one has a brake built into it so that the blade stops almost as soon as you release the trigger. Your 120 volt corded saws may not have that. So just remember that when you're using it, that blade may continue to rotate for a little while after you do your cut. So you just have to keep that in mind, so that you keep your fingers and all your bits attached to you after you're done doing your cut. I don't think we're going to do the reciprocating saw, because that's pretty straightforward, and it's not, well, I don't consider it a precision tool. It can be used for cutting wood. I would not count on it to cut wood precisely. So we're gonna step into the miter box. We'll do that one real quick, and then we'll close it up. Alright, now the miter box saw. And I have to admit, I only just bought this one the other day. I haven't had one, haven't really had the need to have one, but for the sake of this video, I decided to get one. I decided to do it maybe a week ago, and went out the other day and bought one. Pretty much any store, any hardware store, you can pick one of these up. Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace, Do It Yourself, Harbor Freight, they all have a version of this, and they're all relatively cheap. This one was $15, but I've seen them as cheap as $10 and as much as $20 for these plastic ones. Now you can get into more professional ones that can be as much as $100. It just depends on what you need, how much you expect to use it. I just wanted this for the purpose of the video, and to show you all how to use one, to the best of my knowledge, how to use one. And maybe if somebody in the comments says they want it, I'll just send it to you, because I don't really have a purpose for it once I'm done with this video. So if you'd like it, let me know, and maybe we'll try and get it out to you. So we're going to use this piece of wood here, the one that we use for demonstrating, drawing the markings on it. So we'll throw it in here and give you a quick lesson on how it works. So with this one, the blade's a little different than the other one, just like I mentioned earlier. It's only going to cut on the forward stroke. On the back stroke, it's just going to clean out the cut. And so these are, I don't want to say they're dummy proof, but they're darn close. They have the slots in them. It makes it pretty difficult to mess up your cut. The big thing you just have to make sure is that, first off, the edge of your board that you are cutting is straight. If not, then your cut is going to be cattywampus and not correct. And then you just got to make sure once it's in there, you can either hold it yourself. This one here, I guess if you wanted to, let me grab one. If you wanted to make sure it didn't go anywhere, you could throw a clamp in there, which we'll do it, hey, just for the sake of it. Throw a clamp in there. That way it's nice and secure, it's not going to go anywhere. And then all you got to do is put that in there. Start your cut. Alright, well, alright, so I was going to reshoot that last part, but while off camera, I've determined that this thing's a piece of crap. Maybe I'm just dumb, but I really don't like the way it works at all. Let me see if I can demonstrate what's going on here. So let me get this piece of wood clamped in here. Alright. See, that's the first thing, like, you can't even really keep it in there. Let me try this again. Alright. So that's what I'm finding is, like, you can see the marks on the blade. It just wants to, it gets so far through and then it wants to start binding. Now watch, it'll work this time. Yeah, see that it gets to a point, and I think we're through now. So I guess it works. It just, I don't like the plastic at all. Like if this were steel or aluminum, and that blade could more easily just glide in those slots, it would make life so much easier. But with it being plastic, it just doesn't feel right to me. So not sure if I would recommend this. And don't comment below, because I don't think I would want to give this to anyone. I'll probably hang on to the saw, put this sucker in the recycling bin, because in my opinion that's where it belongs. Now, as I mentioned before, the other way you can make these nice 90-degree cuts, and again, it might be out of the budget for a lot of people, and for a beginner I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it either, even though they really aren't that bad to use, would be an electric miter saw. You know, I think they start maybe around $100 at your Home Depot and Lowe's. I'm not sure what you're gonna find at the Harbor Freight, whether they'd be cheaper there or not. Quite possibly are. It wouldn't surprise me. So you know, you could pick one of those up there, as long as you set it up properly. You know, you use your nice square to make sure your blade is square to your fence and square to the base. It'll give you accurate cuts all day long, and you won't have to deal with a shoddy piece of plastic that, you know, shifts and binds and just overall doesn't give you a nice product. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching it, especially if you made it here to the end. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe, like the video, comment, and tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me how dumb I am. Just interact with the channel if you could. It helps me out a lot, and it can help me get a little bit more exposure. Hopefully sometime soon I'd like to maybe do a similar video with how to cut metal, which is something that I probably do a little more of than cutting wood. I'd also like to do a quick knife making video as well. Hobby I picked up a year or two ago. Just making knives. I don't do it commercially. I make them for friends. I give them away as gifts. I trade folks for them. It's just something I enjoy doing. Again, something I'm not necessarily the best at, but something I enjoy. So this is one that I made this past year. This one that's got a little, I think it's some tape residue actually. Made it for myself this past spring, and hopefully we can do a few more, maybe like this, maybe more kitchen knives or just hunting knives, and get them up on the channel. So again, thanks for watching. Have a happy holiday. I'm probably going to release this on Christmas, so Merry Christmas. Probably should have said that in the beginning of the video, but I hope you all are well, and I hope 2021 brings a much better time for everybody out there. Again, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you next time.